Hey, what's happening, everybody? It is Jonathan Budd, and I'm back with another incredible Futuristic Academy interview. And today we are talking to the one and only Miss Novalena Betancourt, who's the author of the Total Female Package. Among many other things, this woman is an incredible entrepreneur, author, speaker. She coaches, she trains, she's in startups, she's a networker extraordinaire. She just has all sorts of amazing, wonderful, beautiful qualities and things that we're going to learn about today. So I'm excited for this interview. Novi, thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad you took the time to spend with our community and share with us some of what's helped you to create a life that you love and you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Is awesome. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
How do you feel?
I feel good. I feel really, really happy. It's super better. I feel super better than just a moment ago.
That's fantastic. When we were sorting through audios and this and that and all these things.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. One moment and it shifts. So,
Yes.
Novi, you know, I want to give our listeners right now, our viewers, a chance to quickly get to know you. So if you had to tell everybody, you know, who you are and just give the skinny of your story and how you sort of came to be where you are now, what would you say?
What would I say? Okay, so that's a mouthful. I'm going to try to keep it because I am a woman in less than 2 minutes. Honestly, I'm here to love. And I came from an amazing family upbringing. I'm Puerto Rican, is my descent. So culture-wise, I saw a lot of women struggling with different hats in the family. And I saw my dad as the pinnacle of corporate America and wanting to make a name for himself here in the States in San Francisco. And so I learned from both worlds, the feminine and the masculine, and always making sure that I was making decisions that supported my dreams and that I was living my life with passion and that I got clarity on what I really wanted to create. So with that being said, fast forward from living in Northern California to now coming down here to San Diego, which is one of the finest cities in the world to live in. I found myself in a few different careers. I was in radio for a while, corporate America for about 8 years. I've been through, you know, schooling systems, universities, master's program, which all led me to really understand and get focused on what is my passion in this blink of an eye existence as Novalina. And so I got really clear on that, and I was really influenced by seeing the woman in my life struggle a little bit with their self-worth. So, and I see a lot of people do that, and they put down what they're doing. So I'm here to be a symbol of self-worth and letting people know that you can create exactly what you want to do and live and be, and it can change as often as you want it to, but to really hone in on what it is that really excites you and then focus and have a general plan, don't get attached to it, but have some clarity and be in that joy every day.
Interesting. What did you see? I'm curious. I can tell you always had this drive, right?
Yeah.
You always had this drive. You went to college, you went back to get your master's degree, you're pushing that corporate career.
Right.
But then something shifted.
Yep.
You know, there was this moment that when all of a sudden that wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And something else was calling you.
Yeah.
What defined that moment? What drove you to shift trajectories towards this new millennial path?
Right.
You know, of doing what you love.
Yeah, I have to share, it was when I was 22, and I did the journey of what every, you know, family growing up in the States would want you to do when you're trying to establish your legacy and your generations here. You know, I was the first to go to college because my dad had really wanted to send his baby girl to college. I did all that stuff, and I got out. I remember coming to San Diego looking for like my first big opportunity in a major corporation in the marketing and PR department, because that was what my focus was. And it was right after September 11th, and all the jobs in those departments were pretty much chiseled down, and like budgets were shot. And I remember getting a job in a whole industry just to take a job for money so I can survive out here that I wasn't really passionate about. And in 6 months, I felt really let down by the school system I was in. Because I sat here and I said, wait, I just went to a 4-year university, and they didn't prepare me for these feelings. I didn't feel prepared to understand financially what it would mean to be where I was in that crisis of the economy. And I kind of felt like I wasn't in control. And then I you know, talked to my spirit self, and I got aligned, and I said, well, wait a minute, like, this is your life. Mm-hmm. Like, why are you going to let, like, all these other things outside of you influence how you're feeling right now? You know, so that was the first pivotal moment when I was 22.
Where did that spirit self come from? How did you have a connection and a relationship to this, what you call a spirit self, we might call a wiser self, or just like, you know, a higher knowingness? Where did that come from?
You know, when I was a little girl, my dad said that I would walk around the neighborhood and I would tell everybody, even before he ever took me to church or any experience like that, he'd say I'd walk around and tell everybody, you just have to have faith. And he didn't know where I got it from, because no one really talked about that. I was like 5 years old walking around the neighborhood. So some of those things, I think, like when you're really tuned in to that inner voice, you just kind of know and you bring with you. So
is that a value? Like, what are the, you know, I can tell that you've got some deep values that really guide your life.
They do.
What are these values that have helped you to tune into that voice and be connected to it?
Well, my values are around, like, number one value, which I know some people are like, that's a value, but for me it is love. And what words I use, facial expressions, how I interact, how I engage, how I think about things, relationships, growth, and community. And in all of that, there's just a knowing, there is a faith that I have. You know, actually my on-air DJ name was Faith. When I was rocking out with Jamzy 90 out here for a couple of years, that was my urban name. Wow. But it's all, to me, it's all about having that trust and knowing, like you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is all on purpose and this is happening for some bigger reason because you've asked for it. So it's just more of an understanding and a trust in yourself.
Wow, that's really cool. Now, would you say that these values, this sort of attitude that you've been able to embody, how much has that helped you be successful?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
I mean, would you say that that's what attracted the things that you currently now have in your life? Absolutely.
The good and the bad. I mean, the moments when, you know, you're not trusting attract all those situations that are happening that you're like, what the hell's happening right now? I didn't ask for that, but you did. Because you weren't in the flow of feeling the joy and the love and the trust and the faith. Yeah. So absolutely, all of those values have influenced my path and the resources and the choices and the projects and the people that I've allowed in my life.
Really interesting. So you've got a lot of really cool stuff going on right now. You were just asked to speak at the Global Women's Conference.
The California Women's Conference.
California Women's Conference, which is it was originated from almost like the governor's ball or something.
Yeah, from the governor of California, some odd, 20, 30 decades ago. Wow. And it was created for, it was called the Ladies Governor Ball, and it was created for women to be able to come together for 2 days and do personal and business development and learn what's working for other women and really be in this community. So I'm excited because Oprah, Michelle Obama, Marie Shriver, the Dalai Lama, there have been some epic people that have come through the conference. Wow. Around 30,000 women run through the 2-day event. Wow. So it's a really great way for us to all connect once a year and locally see how we can support each other and then see what everyone up is globally and how we can actually affect women outside of this country.
That's amazing. So you've got this invitation to share your heart with all these incredible influential women. You're working on a publishing deal right now with Mark Anthony for your book.
Yes.
I know you're also part of a management team at a startup.
Yes.
You're speaking at different conferences, you're taking clients, all these things. So, you're really rocking it in your world and in your business and doing your thing right now and living it. So I want to retrace the steps so that everybody who's watching this right now and saying, I want a millennial career. I want a millennial path. Like, I want to do what I love, and I want to figure out what her strategies were for how did she build this, right? So let's go back to the beginning.
Yes.
What was the first step you took when you made that shift from, shit, I'm in a corporate job that I do not like, and I got pretty much scammed by the education system, like, what the hell? What was the first thing you did to start to get your idea to go in a different direction? What did you do? I mean,
So that's a great question, because I did something that a lot of people don't allow themselves to do, and it was really simple, is I stopped and I allowed myself to think and get in my creative space and ask myself the questions in front of a mirror, because I just believe mirrors are really powerful for honest reflections, talking to yourself, looking at yourself, really seeing yourself. And I just said, okay, what would you do, Novalina, if money didn't matter? And I know that's kind of like a lot of people ask that. What would you do? What's your passion? But I did. I asked myself, what would you do if money didn't matter? What do you want to do? What excites you? And at the time, when I was 22, it was, I mean, I was in love with MTV and all the music videos, and I wanted to create music videos, and I had all these ideas for sets and different scripting and different celebrities I'd bring in. And so I wanted to be like the woman version of Carson Daly. Yeah. So I was like, okay, so here's somebody I kind of want to like strive to be towards. I like his career. I like where he's headed. How do I do that? So I'm researching Carson Daly, saw that he started in radio. So then I started to take the steps that most people won't, where they would just get comfortable, go, well, I got this paycheck, like it's you know, consistent. And I said, no, I want to do something different. So I started putting away my money. I started going out less with girlfriends and friends. I started reading. I went back to college just so I can have an opportunity to get an internship at a radio corporation called Clear Channel. So I started to do all the things that most people wouldn't. I went backwards so I can move forward, and I got clear. And so within 3 months of me getting the internships, they already had me on air. Wow. I worked crazy hours. I did what normal people wouldn't do. I worked part-time. I went to school just to make my rent and all that, not dip too much into savings. I was doing overnights. I was training. I was recording. I was spending all my extra time focused on learning what it would mean to be this big radio personality. And so I did it and got through it. And was like, after 2 years, like, hey, that's not what I really want to do. But I'm excited that I did it. And I learned a lot from it. And then I had the same conversation with myself again.
Interesting. You did it again.
Did it again.
Wow. So what happened that time?
So that time I actually got really clear on wanting to be a voice in corporations where I can actually create education programs for employees and managers to do more team building and more effective communication, because I saw all the misuse of communication happening, which was cranking down results. So I got really excited about, how do I help these people connect and really feel honored and grateful for one another and the contribution they're all putting together. So I started doing that. And then I started doing my writing. And then when I got really clear, I wanted to be an author and potentially have my own, you know, talk show. I started looking at Oprah. She started, at the time, I wasn't really following Oprah, but then she started paving the way for all of these really enlightened spiritual people to come on and share, how do you live your best life? And I was like, exactly, that's what we're all trying to do. Like, how do I become an extension of her initial work and bring that to a whole new audience? And I did the same thing that I did back then. Wow. I started networking with people. I started getting involved in different groups and organizations and started building my brand, my voice, my message. And
so this is a huge topic.
Yes.
Because I love your story, because you actually went back after you went to one path, found, okay, this isn't what I want. You went back, you asked yourself this beautiful question, which everybody should ask themselves. Right. And you end up getting taken into the career track of radio. Mm-hmm. And for that path, though, you know, the path was pretty clear. It was go back to school, find an internship, move up here. Then you find yourself again in a position where, wait a minute, this isn't what I want. And when you ask yourself the next question, that's when all of a sudden we break free from any actual traditional system that exists. Mm-hmm. There's no school system to go back to for this, right?
No,
there's no internships you're going to get at the, okay, how do I be a voice and create my own? So all of a sudden, you're on your own.
Yeah.
And there's this huge crossover. One of the things we talk about is the IDC estimated by 2020 that 60% of every single person in the workforce is going to be an independent entrepreneur of some kind.
Right.
Meaning we're on our own. You know, there's an aspect of us creating our reality, of us having the faith of moving into that unknown sort of system, that unknown sort of system really of how we build this business. Mm-hmm. So I'd love to understand, when you did it the second time and it was just you, what were the struggles that you faced in the beginning?
Oh, wow. Well, in the beginning, you're still seeking that mentorship. You're seeking that who's the person, the team, like what feels right. So, so the struggle, I would say, probably would be part of the excitement too, is you're learning and you're constantly having to make decisions. And until you can find somebody that you really feel comfortable trusting, you're kind of on your own. So you're trusting your gut a lot. Financially, like, you know, it takes, I don't want to say like it takes this huge financial windfall to be able to go out after your dreams, but you have to understand how to manage your finances through it. You have to understand like how to lower your overhead, how to cut certain corners, what we were talking about earlier, how to maybe be thrifty, because sometimes initially when you're getting started and you're building your message, your brand, you're doing some stuff initially for free. Because you're trying to get your name out there, you're trying to build that trust and audience base with other people who already have been doing things for several years and have an established audience. So you're doing a lot of those things. And so having a plan, like, okay, write out your financials, like what's my structural tension chart look like? Structural tension is just a way to say, here's what I need in my overhead expenses. This is the amount of money I need per month. How am I gonna achieve that? How many hours is going to go to that per month, and the other hours working on this side of it, and just have like a clear focus. And I find out with women more so than men is a lot of us aren't that structured and detailed, which is where I see a lot of women struggle.
Interesting.
So they got to get good with being able to, I see a lot of single moms do it really well because they have to, you know, they've got a kid, they've got boom, 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 but other women who are kind of just floating and trying to still figure out what their passion and mission is, they struggle in that area. So getting really clear on that, and then picking a direction, trusting it, and moving forward, and not getting paralyzed.
You mapped out in the beginning, you mapped out your structural tension.
Yes.
So you knew exactly, here's what I need to live, to
Yes.
pay the bills, and the rest of all this time is towards my career, my dream, my passion.
Right.
So what'd you do in that weird sort of transitionary phase? What'd you do to pay the bills? How much time did you spend working on your business? Like, what was it for you?
So, Jonathan, I've always been of the belief to have at least, people will say 6 months, but I say have a year in the bank of what it would take if you didn't work a whole year to be able to pay all your bills. So before I really ever broke off, but I knew those feelings, those kind of like anxious feelings, I got to switch, I got to do something different because I don't feel like I'm living the best of my ability. I always made sure I had at least a window of a year of finances in the bank before I would ever shift into something.
So you're a great saver.
Yes. Yeah.
That is key.
Yes.
That's key. She's a great saver.
I am. So I would make sure that always was there, so I wasn't so stressed out on what am I going to do.
Yeah.
And then I would know here, but I don't want to dip into it, so as much as I didn't have to. So then I would go, okay, here's what I need to get to. Say it was $1,500 a month, $2,000. I kept my overhead really low. Then what did I have to do for that money? You know, pick up a client, two clients. Maybe do a couple events, promotions, things like that. And so I got that taken care of. So I'd figure those out for the month, and then I would know exactly the rest of the month that I had left to working on my dream and my passion. And in those hours, I would be as productive as possible. I'd look at the events, I'd look at the people that were gonna be there, and I would go through like my feeling tone on everything and go, what's the one that I have to go to? And here's the thing about networking, because I know you mentioned like, you know, hey, like what are some of your nuggets? I'm one of those persons that if I'm gonna go to an event, be it, you know, Tony Robbins, just like something that I share. I haven't really actually gone to a Tony Robbins event, but people know him. But that's just an example, or some of the events here locally for some of our amazing entrepreneurs. If you're going to go to an event, I do not leave that event until I know the person who put on the event, hosted it, was the front runner of the event, knows who I am. So I make sure I go say hello to the main people that put it on, how to deal with the programming. They understood who I was. We talked about synergy, and they booked an appointment. So I always make sure that there was follow-up. I didn't go with the thought. Some people go and go, oh my God, I'm going to go to this event, I'm going to meet 40 people. Realistically, I say I'm going to walk into this event and meet 3 people. And I pre-frame myself. Here are what are the resources I'm looking for, and here's what I can give. And so I always have that game plan in my mind before I walk into an event. I always have an intention I set. I always have a result I want to achieve walking out of it. I don't just go just for the sake of going. So that's why I think networking and building a personal relationship. When I'm building that personal relationship, I listen a lot. I watch cues. Yeah.
All right, so I want to drill in a little bit more to one thing you said. So what's something that you said you look for what you have to offer others when you go to an event? So can you give me an example of like what's in your head, like when you're thinking, oh, what can I do for somebody? What is it that you think you can do for them?
Absolutely. So we talked about this a little bit offline, but I have an ability to really collect resources and just amazing people always seem to show up who have a need or a service. And so the biggest thing that I can do for somebody is ask them, like, what's your biggest pain point? What's something right now that, like, if you had this resource or that would just shift what's going on for you in your world? And I always end up having somebody that I can make a connection for. Because I realize a lot of people don't have the confidence or the ability to go out and speak to as many people as I do. And I totally acknowledge my father for giving me this gift of being able to connect. I've watched him growing up and saw how he interacted with both sexes, and I really learned a lot from him. And so it's always about, you know, how can I be in service, you know, and how can I help you move something forward that you are just really looking for right now.
So you find what somebody's challenge is, what the problem is, and you connect them to somebody who can help them.
Yeah.
Because you're always out networking.
Yeah. Potential lead. Yeah.
And that's been a huge in for you to a lot of relationships, I imagine.
Absolutely. And even if
that's an easy thing that everybody can do.
Yeah. And even if there's no, like, in the sense of financial benefit for me connecting people, I just do it because it feels good to see somebody else, like, have that change come over their face and they're like, I feel supported. You know, I'm not alone. There's other people out there that are doing and going through what I'm going through. And it goes back to community, and it goes back to being a gatherer and a woman.
Somebody knows you're their friend.
Absolutely.
And once you're their friend, then you've got a relationship.
Yeah.
Now, so you've built a lot of really powerful relationships through this networking process, which has allowed you to, you know, launch books and get speaking engagements and clients and all these things. And I want to take it back one more step so we can see your strategy. So just follow this chain. So you found your passion, you found your niche after going through multiple sort of different careers. You eventually came into really wanting to be a voice for women's leadership in business and really empowering women on all forms of leadership, thus the total female package. So then, is your number one strategy for how, once you got your idea, once you knew what you wanted to do, you wanted to write a book, you wanted to coach women, consult, how did you build your first audience? How did you find your clients? How did you sort of, you know, turn that into a successful business?
Yeah, this is a great question because it's so valid for people who are, like, learning how to do this, right? It comes from going out there and finding I think I found about initially 5 other women who I really looked up to and saw how they were putting their business packages together. And I started to duplicate part of their business packages that felt good to me. So whether they were events that had certain topics at them, or they were like, I was asking them, hey, come into an event that I'm doing. I love for you to share your voice with the audience here, you know. And it started with, like, a handful of my girlfriends initially who were all supporting me. And I put on this first event with this women's organization out here that I had a co-founder with, and we put on this event. I went to my 5 closest girlfriends out here, and then they went out and got all their girlfriends, and I went out and started marketing on social media sites, and in, like, within a 3-week period, we had about 100 women in a downtown loft in San Diego, and we put on this 4-hour event, and it was one of the most heart-centered events I'd ever put on. And then it became like word of mouth. It became like more expansive. So it always starts for me with an idea and then action around the idea and setting the timeline and the goals, and then going out and going, what do I need to do to be able to attract the kind of women to this event that are going to really leave with the results? That's how I started to build the audience, and then the follow-up came from social media, and then expanding, keeping them in tune. and making sure that women weren't just getting the soft stuff, like how do I love myself and how do I pay more attention, but also the business, the financial wherewithal too, because that's where I see a lot of women struggle. They get to a point, I know my passion is, they just don't know how to monetize it. So I went out and learned how the heck do you monetize yourself? And that was one of my focuses, because that's what I want to talk to women about all the time and give them bigger ideas. I've been working with a lot of men in the past 2 years, and I dove into that, being the only woman on several teams, because I wanted to learn, how do I honor these men and have them feel important? And what am I learning? What does that one do really well? What does this one do really well? Now, how does that apply to what I'm creating? And how can I put that into practice and then tell women about it later?
That's really great. I mean, I just totally got a download on how how to just form really tight-knit relationships with 5 people. It's not like a lot, but just 5 people, and how those 5 people form a little team, and you all as a group go out and promote on social media and talk to your friends and generate buzz and throw your first event. And that's how it starts. That's how you do it. That's amazing. That's really exciting, because anybody who has an idea, they're passionate about something, can put on an event, can do that exact thing. So another thing that you've done, which I also found really inspiring, was throughout all this, you were building a fairly successful network marketing business as well. You have full-time income in network marketing. Now, how did you do that in addition to all this other stuff? Or how did that fit into everything too?
Well, what happened was, like I shared before, when I would walk into like any organization that I felt aligned with my values and my purpose and mission and all that, I'd go meet the top person of the team, and I went to go work with people who I knew had the results, and I would get mentored by them, and I would put into fast action the things that they were sharing with me. So in the whole like journey of it all, it just ended up happening that things grew really fast, and some of the leaders of these companies started to learn about me from more of a woman in business speaking author world who wanted somebody like me to be in their company to influence these other women to stay the path of what they were trying to create. So then I would get invited in to create women-based programs for these different companies, so that women would have a place that they can go to and feel coached and mentored.
And so this is what happens when you sort of take a stand for what you believe in, what your deepest passions are. You put yourself out there, you just start networking like crazy, and the brighter you shine, the more people see your light, and the more invitations you just start getting, because it seems like your business has been a real almost feminine unfolding. Like you haven't like forced like, oh, I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna get in here and I'm gonna get this. It's like you get invited. It's almost like an invitation to join this, an invitation to this. And that's beautiful, because that's exactly opposite how I do almost anything. I'm like the damn bulldozer, trying to bulldoze everything, and my head is flat because I've hit so many walls. And, but teach their own. My path is a path of struggle. Yours is the path of gracious invitations into all these things. Oh man, that's really cool though, and inspiring, because that's really, I think, it speaks so much to what this new millennial path is really about. It's about taking your stand for what you believe in. And it's about showing up, facing all that nitty gritty stuff that is in our way. Our resistance is really what it is. And stepping through the resistance and into who we really are, what we really love, what we really want, and taking a stand for that and being a voice for that. And, things show up in your life. Like the solutions come. And you are a perfect example of that. So I want to keep going into more business stuff.
Perfect.
How did you write this book? How did you create your first product? So once you had an idea, what was your first product? Do you have any sort of product strategies? Like, if somebody wants to create a product right now, what's the first tip you'd give them? Like, your nugget.
Yep. Well, when I first created, my first actual product was events. like in the sense of ticket sales and put butts in seats and all that stuff. Physical product, you know, this is like my first physical product. And I got influenced by a lot of the teachers of that book, The Secret, because I was already networking with them before that whole thing came out. And I was on one of the cruises that went around the Mexican Riviera. And I remember sitting down with one of my great friends, Matt Boggs, and he was like, well, the time is now, you know, like, let's get this going. He's like, what's up to you, P? You know, he's like, let's write this thing, you know? And so I committed myself and said, I'm going to do this. And over time, I've actually realized, and I love having the physical copy because I'm a kinesthetic person and it's a workbook and women can write and journal and stuff. But right now with like Kindle and with the power of audio, you can create a product really from your own computer and go online and just do simple, easy practices to get your book up on Kindle. And then the real thing is marketing it. Yeah, like really marketing it.
So what do you mean easy, simple practices? Like what would somebody do if they've got an idea, they want to put a book on Kindle right now? Like what's the process?
So get clear on your book. I have a strategy, a 10-step strategy on how to work it out. Basically, I always say go through and what are your top like 10 nuggets, which become your 10 chapters. And then you break down each of those chapters into 3 sections. What are the 3 points people are going to get out of that one chapter? And then you write it down so it's bite-sized chunks. That's how I wrote this book. So 40 hours over 5 days, and I outlined it first. I knew exactly what I wanted to write about, and then I just got into these
40 hours.
40 hours. 40 hours, yes.
That's
in a 6-month period over 5 days, and I only sat and wrote when I really felt called. Like I had to feel like this is the day, and then that was it. I would just focus on it, and I would write, and I would see what would come out. It was almost like it wrote itself. It was really easy, but all of the accumulation of experience, journeys, mentors, books, they all just kind of downloaded into these subjects. I even actually put in. It was originally 12 mirrors in this book. There's 13. Because another mirror came after a situation where I had to kind of partner with my ego a little bit. And I'm like, oh, that needs to go in the book. That's not there for women. Wow. So I learned that after I'd actually written the first 12 mirrors. So now there's 13 mirrors in the book. But it really came down to what I called slide edge moves. You put together like the idea, and then you break down how you want to then dissect it. And then you give yourself permission to just go and be in flow and know that it's not going to be perfect. And then you go through the resources. I found an editor. I had other women read it. I had 2 of my main mentors, Ken Blanchard and Jeff Olson, read this book. They're all best-selling authors in different verticals and industries. And they're like, wow, every woman needs to own this book. I would give this book to every woman in my network right now if it was published. And I had just given them my manuscript. And that gave me what I call the faith lift. Wow. To actually go out, to actually go out and do it.
Wow, so you got great feedback. Now, anybody could write, I mean, I know Kindle too right now is great for lead generation too. I mean, even just you want to build a brand around yourself. I mean, to have a book on Kindle, and it doesn't need to be, you know, like sometimes I think about, oh, I can't write a book because, you know, I'm not going to do like 2 years of research and have, you know, some story and some this and some that, like, you know, what's his name, Daniel Pink has, this, for all these people have, like, you know, we can just write, you know, like it doesn't need to be a big ordeal.
Yeah.
Like, you can just do it.
Just completely come from your heart and just write a lot of people out there have some type of experience that is so unique, and it's in their own voice, their own tone, their own layers of programming from family to where they grew up in cities and different countries. And it's unique where you're going to have something come through for somebody where they're going to resonate. So just go out there and write.
So we all have a unique voice that is uniquely going to resonate for someone out there.
Absolutely.
For someone out there, they're just going to love what we have to say.
They're going to feel less alone because you're sharing your voice and an emotion, that vulnerability. That I believe the vulnerability, like when I'm vulnerable and I'm talking to you, your spirit will pick up on that. And that's when we can have a real conversation. And that's when all the other stuff just kind of goes to the wayside and we understand why we're here.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
So Kindle would be your first choice?
Kindle would be like, for right now, what I'm seeing, since the market's changed a little bit since I started first coming out and doing books, like I would say Kindle, really easy. I mean, write a 20-page Word document, go look at the Kindle instructions. It's very simple. And just upload, go to fiverr.com, Fiverr.com, get a $5 graphic for your book cover. It's not that much. And then just go and upload it, boom. And then you just start marketing on social media, talking about it, get your friends talking about it, have them go write, ratings and comments on why your book is so great. And then it just kind of starts to turn. One of my new friends and mentor, Kamal Ravikant, who's from Northern California, he did this with several of his books, and he's a best-selling author. He's getting picked up. Like, he almost has created another income for himself that can sustain himself just from these like Kindle books and that are being sold. It's amazing. Wow. Yeah.
And it generates so much buzz.
And people to know your brands and and I'm finding that
that's really special.
Yeah, having something out there on the internet that's your voice makes you more credible. People go, okay, well, now I can see their style and their influence, and I see what people are saying about them, and it builds what I call the speed of trust. They may not personally know you yet, but now there's this trust that you're credible and that they have a kind of a little bit of a faith in you now. So if they want to connect and reach out, they can.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
So you've got all this going on.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you going from here?
Yeah.
What's next for you? What's
Yes. Business-wise?
Sure, whatever. I mean, business, life, heart. What's your next growth edge? What's calling you?
Yeah, like you mentioned before, I'm a part of a startup, and the role in the startup that I'm a part of is we're creating a marketing utility in the form of an app and an on-premise, off-premise beacon, and it's pretty extraordinary to see what's happening. And I'm the first woman on the team. And the role I have currently, my title is VP of PR and Media Relations. So spokeswoman type work, media relations, events planning, all that stuff. But everyone's wearing all hats right now because it's still a young team, right? We do everything, even though that's the title. And what I really see is, which is so funny, is because growing up I saw, I'm my daddy's daughter, I'm going to be this big corporate CEO someday, and that all shifted for me after I first got out of college. No, I'm going to do something completely different. But now it's kind of, I'm come full circle, and now I'm back in this world of corporate where I'm building a company. Wow. And there's so many amazing women out there, like the Sheryl Sandberg, who, COO of Facebook. Yep. And so I'm really looking to create a name for myself in the tech and the communication space for women in business who want to influence these major industry verticals who have a lot of influence over the world and its communications and how things are advancing. So I want to be somebody that can be trusted in that world, and saying, well, if Novalina's working on this project, then it's probably legitimate, it's a good thing to get involved in, here's her spin on it, here's her voice, and be able to go out and market and share kind of the ins and outs of working with all these alpha males and how it is to be in that kind of climate, and how things are shifting and changing, and how the feminine voice is coming into play. So
what is that feminine voice? How do you see the feminine sort of balancing this I'll just speak from experience, often chaotic, alpha male, sort of male driven world? What is the feminine, what do we need?
Right, totally.
In order to balance that out. How do you see the feminine sort of coming into play and just sort of making things sane?
Yeah, well, and a couple things, right? I'm learning that a lot of these alpha males are kind of getting tired of the chaos from just shares, and I listen to opinions and thoughts. The stress and the health issues and all the things that are happening. They're getting to a point where they're like, can it just be different than it was 10 years ago? How do we make it different? How do we add more personal touch to what we're doing? So there's already this need for that coming out, because people want to live more balanced lives lately. I think there's a lot of awareness around what does that really look like? How do you really enjoy the legacy you're building? And so I think that opens up the conversations for the feminine team members to be able to voice those things and create experiences and connections. A lot of what I do is I take in a lot of energy from the male perspectives and what's going on, and I see how men are working together, and I try to figure out how I can help support that relationship to keep nurturing and growing. So if there's a miscommunication or a misunderstanding, how can I help add another voice to it to soften kind of what maybe was taken out of context. So that's kind of how I've been searching to help, and I feel best in those roles because I feel like I'm really being in service, because there's big vision, big picture, and we want the vision to be created and actually manifest. So if all the things along the way start to crumble, the vision kind of is like, oh, is it going to happen? And when you can have the open communication and growing, then it's definitely like on point to come up.
That's huge, and it's an awesome actual distinction too, because this new millennial path, it's not limited almost. Like it's anything that you love.
Right.
Like even if that means heading back into a quote corporation, if you love it, if it's your calling, if it's what you feel, then go for it.
Yeah.
You know, do it. Like go for what you love the most. And I think that, you know, the big hallmark is of this shift and this change is I think it's great. That's where my passion is right now. Like my passion is building companies, building corporations. That's what I'm doing every single day.
Right.
But it's ones that are completely aligned with my values.
Absolutely.
You know, ones that are aligned with this new future that is wanting to be birthed. You know, our world is dying for it. You know,
Right.
give us, as you said, vulnerability, and give us a new paradigm that's not so chaotic and competitive,
Right.
and give us balance and give us health, and you know, give us companies that respect the freaking environment. Give us companies that are paving the way for a sustainable future, not destroying it.
Right.
You know, give us companies that uplift people, you know, not push them down and try to squash them so that you can eke out more profit margins. You know, give us the new paradigm, and I'll support that all day long.
Absolutely.
So I really love that I see you really being in everything, you know. Like, it's almost like, you know what, nothing's gonna define me. I'm going where this thing wants to go.
Totally. Well, it's like it's just like a ladder, you know. It's like become the radio DJ, get your voice out there, then be an author, then go be a speaker and go do tours, and then now what, you know, and like where can I go create influence? And I'm going to be just completely honest, like I have goals of having several $100 million in the bank someday, because I want to shift my family's legacy. I want to set up the generations to come after me. So I'm really focused now on how do I create this amount of money? What amount of money do I need in the bank, which I have my number, then I can live off the interest and keep that fund growing for my children's children. And so that they have an opportunity from like the get-go of their start, being in that artist mode and being creative and creating their own businesses, and you know, go see the world as your school, not necessarily go sit down at a desk for 4 years somewhere now. So I'm really, really passionate about family legacy.
That is a beautiful vision for your whole family legacy, my dear.
Yes.
Wow, you just probably expanded all of our family legacy visions. What's yours going to be now? Novalina, this has been incredible. How do people find you? First off, where do they go to get the Total Female Package right now if they want Total Female Package?
So you go to Amazon and you can find different versions of Total Female Package, softcover, Kindle, ebook. You can go to iTunes for the audio, the totalfemalepackage.com. And obviously Facebook. I do a lot of posts on Facebook, on Instagram, so it's just fun to keep those social medias up for me.
Oh, my dear. Well, thank you so much for being here. If you have any sort of final words of encouragement for everybody who's creating their dreams right now, what would you say?
I would say that you have this one shot to be so who you are in every moment, and it's absolutely beautiful. So whenever you're in doubt, just go back to remembering what a miracle it is that you're here, and just completely own falling in love with yourself every day. You're your own best friend.
That is amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. This is Jonathan Budd with the New Millennial Paths and the amazing Novalina, and we'll see you all soon. Ciao.